Hello, welcome to TrueHoop with me, Jarod, Hector, and Coach David Thorpe. How are you, sir?
I'm well, my friend. All is good.
All is well indeed. All is not well, though, David, for Team USA basketball. Not only did they not go to the gold medal game, they lost the bronze game to Team Canada in overtime in a wild sequence of events that actually got them to overtime. Bridges intentionally misses his second free throw somehow, which, as a coach, I'm sure this drove you mad. How do you let the guy who shot the free throw get the rebound? Like, he got the rebound, got out to the three-point line, made an improbable three to force the game to go in overtime, but then in OT, SGA, Team Canada, Dillon Brooks, they just did their thing. And Team USA had no answers for them defensively, which, if you're a smart person, you listen to TrueHoop, which you should. Before this tournament even began, when David saw the roster, his first thing was, yeah, we have a defensive problem. And David, it bore true in this entire tournament run.
Yeah. I'm not going to, I don't know the reasoning for the roster selections that they made. I don't know what players they even had to choose from, which I think, Jarod, I've been very busy the last couple of days on social media, my own personal stuff, not publicly, walking people off the ledge. Like hey, one guy who I really like and respect made a comment, wrote something on his page that, like, we have to make our players play. Like, no, we don't. Like, who are we? What are you talking about? Kevin Durant it was really enjoying the U.S. Open. He wasn't enjoying the seating because he's such a tall guy. His legs are all folded up on the railing in front of him. But like, we can't make anyone play, and This is the World Cup. And we talked about this, and I think we have an article now coming out tomorrow. I'm quite sure that 0 of these 12 guys imagined for a moment when they were out hooping at 15 or 12 or whatever, one day I'm going to be the guy that helps us beat Germany in the semifinals of the World Cup. Like, it wasn't even called the World Cup when they were young.
Right, it's World Championships. Yeah.
Yeah. It just isn't on our radar that way. It just isn't. And so, for whatever reason, we didn't have a whole lot of our most talented guys to choose from. And we picked some defensive players, but not enough. Yeah, and just the way we needed to defend. But I would add this as well. The other problem, Jarod, I thought, was a lack of motivation to, oh my God, I have to win this possession. Every single the possession you described, the Bridges corner three to tie the game, you could feel the urgency in that play. Listen, Germany played with that urgency pretty much every possession. Canada, pretty much every possession. Serbia, our guys didn't. For whatever reason, and we can talk about that if you want. And so the last thing I'll say on this before you chime in with more stuff is this team gave our Olympic team a real gift. They have a reason to play with vengeance. And maybe they will. I think they probably will.
Well, I think what's interesting and illustrative of that, not only did we give our Olympic team a gift, and the idea is in 2024, next summer, barring injury and whatever a team does in terms of advancing to the finals, we will have a different roster. More of the top guys will be looking to go to the Olympics. We talked about it on our content call this morning. If you just do a starting backcourt of Dame and Steph, that's already problematic for everybody in the world to contend, because those are two of the greatest shooters. Well, one is the greatest shooter ever, and the other one maybe, I don't know, top 3. And then if you go
possibly
right, and then if you go Tatum and Durant at your forward spots, like, good luck again, right? And then whoever you put at center, LeBron, as you mentioned, who's our best center right now, or someone like Nick Claxton, or even if you bring Jaren Jackson Jr. back, like you're
right. Go on. So Jaren Jackson, we have a lot of centers, but I said on the show on our call earlier, like, I don't know why Joel Embiid can't play for us.
Well, he could, right?
He can,
right.
And maybe,
if he plays for us and not France, which he could play for France if he wants to.
Why would he want to back up Wembanyama or Rudy Gobert?
Well, this is just my fever dream of seeing 3 7-footers on the court at the same time.
I'm just saying, if to be fair and to be honest, I saw Joel Embiid play when he was 16, 17. He wasn't very good. His prospects were great. I texted Masai Ujiri asking if this is one of your guys when I first saw him in high school, but he was not a good player. Well, like, he led Kansas to the national championship like AD did at Kentucky. Yeah. In America, as a collective, did a good job with
Mhm.
that current MVP that we have, one of the most skilled big men we've ever seen, maybe the most skilled big man
So skilled.
with that kind of size and athleticism. There's no one like him.
Mhm.
And that was through American high schools and American college for a
Mhm.
year or two. 1 year?
Yeah, a year at Kansas. Yeah, I think so.
And then in the NBA. All that's America. The
Yeah.
fact that he was born somewhere else, fine.
Right.
But our development system, as flawed as most other countries,
Right.
has lots of success stories too.
Correct. And Joel Embiid's one
Yeah.
of them, no doubt. And
Right.
let's say Embiid doesn't play for Canada. I don't have my fever dream. That starting five I just mentioned. I mean, good luck beating that team. Like, that's
Right.
just, it's problems
Right.
everywhere you look. But what I did see, though, David, is you made the point of, those guys play with urgency every possession. And what that says is that when we construct a team, it used to be in the past, in the early 90s or whatever, when the talent gap was much wider, we could send any group of pros out in a tournament and they would wax the floor with anybody because the talent was so much better. But it isn't like that now because every other international team has at least one NBA rotation, sometimes two, right? And guys who play in the EuroLeague who were excellent. And to David's point, they battle with their hair on fire because to them, when they're growing up in their equivalent of their driveway, it's, I've got the ball with 5 seconds to beat Team USA, right? Because we are the Goliath to them, right? So that is the biggest thing for them to do. And there's a collective buy-in. I mean, you saw it. Schroeder and Tice and Wagner, they wanted it. Like, I was like, damn, Dennis Schroeder, you'll play like that in the NBA all the time, right? But it was a different thing. He really was going for it. And I thought it was amazing to see. I also thought Serbia didn't have Jokic, didn't have, who's the guy that won EuroLeague MVP? It's also on their team. Oh, God, I can't think of his name. But he didn't play either. So they had Bogdan Bogdanovic. That was it. And guess what? They were still awesome. So, again, kudos to all the teams that really took this seriously and fought well and won medals. Let's get to Team USA and Canada. Wow, what a game for the Canadians. Without Jamal Murray, by the way. So as you said on the call, David, you add Jamal Murray to this mix next year? Canada's got to feel like we got a legit shot of medaling at the Olympics next year for sure.
Yeah, and that's a big deal for them. There's other Wiggins didn't play either.
That's right.
He's pretty good. Yeah, he'd be nice on that team. They have some other Canadians too. Canada's got a lot of play. Canada's got the second most in the NBA after America. It is more. They're loaded with talent.
Yeah, I mean, I was very, very impressed with and look, we can't not talk about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And I mean, David said it, I think, 2 days in the tournament. Oh, he's the best player in the tournament. And my God, like, he was electric. I think they did their version of like plus minus came out with the top players in the tournament, and it was SGA. I mean, he was just phenomenal. And look, we said it. OKC is fucking good. And if he's that kind of dude, like we know he was top 7 in EPM. If he's playing like that, he's an MVP candidate if Oklahoma City wins a ton of games.
I think that, we talk sometimes, and we've talked about this on the show, some who can use this event to kind of a springboard.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know until
it happens.
Things happen. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But this is the Shai Gilgeous that can take OKC to a playoff series and maybe even a playoff series win. I don't know beyond that. They're young. It doesn't mean they don't have some deals to make to get more veterans. As Team USA learned, young teams are not easily banked on.
Yep.
And so OKC is a young team. So to bank on them beyond the first round especially would be silly. But I mean, he's that kind of scorer. And I said this on our show last week. He had 10 rebounds in the game we were talking about, 31 and 10 or whatever. He's kind of finding ways to help his team win beyond just scoring.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's David's thing. It's like, how do you help us win the possession?
Yeah.
And scoring is one way to win a possession. But if you're rebounding, and I mean, he plays with a tempo, David. Like, the greats, we always say, you can't rush them. They play at their speed. Like, he's like that. It's like, oh, Shai's just kind of playing the game like at this pace he wants to play it. Pretty freaking amazing to watch. And again, kudos to Canada. We'll talk about Dillon Brooks. Actually, now we'll go that. I'll get back to Team USA in a minute. So Dillon Brooks did something he never did in an NBA game, which is go 7 for 8 from 3. And I mean, he was incredible. Scored 30-something points, and his usual dogged defense all over the place. He is someone who I think, given how the end of the season went, and we talked about this on our last show, with Memphis, where he kind of felt like you guys blame me for everything that went wrong, when we know, and you and I think probably alike on this, David, that the John Morant thing I think was a bigger issue with what was going on with that team than any of the Dillon Brooks stuff. But anyway, he felt like he was the scapegoat, right? They came out and said through Shams, under no circumstances is he coming back, and that's a horrible. Most teams don't say that about the player; they just don't want him to come back, right? That I'm going free agency and he gets signed somewhere. So I think he kind of was like, wow, that's how people feel about me. So this for him, I think, was such an amazing opportunity to get that bronze, beat Team USA, play so well. And I think Houston now, and Coach Udoka is going to have someone who's got a little fire in the belly to be like, no, people think I'm crap and I'm not good. I'll show you guys.
Well, we've never questioned the fire in his belly. We'll see. When you are excommunicated, as it were,
yes,
like there's probably a reason for it. So let's just see. He certainly played great in this tournament, and 7 of 8 from 3 is no joke. Yeah, almost no one ever does that.
No one.
Yeah, practice court, not in a game. But Houston's going to lose a bunch of games this year.
Of course, they're not good.
They've lost more. They'll lose more than he's lost the last few years in Memphis. Let's see how he handles that. You know how I say this all the time. Everyone has the privilege of growing up, and he learned. I hope he learned some lessons about that. He still got paid $20 million a year, I think.
Yeah.
So he's doing fine and great. And all right, Dillon. Now what?
Yeah,
like this is the league. The league demands a permanence to an adjustment that you might make in behavior or whatever, or not. Maybe he says, "Nope, I'm who I am," and look, we just beat America. That would be a mistake by
for
him.
sure,
and that's on Houston and Coach Udoka and the staff to make sure Dillon moves towards the light, not the dark side, in the sense of we don't want to be the second team,
right? To
just basically say you're gone,
right?
Yeah.
Houston wants to pull out all the good things that happened for Team Canada.
Right.
This is the good things. This is what we want because we think you can be that. He mentioned something in his post game when he's asked about his shooting, and he's like, they have this Noah machine in Toronto in the place where we practice, and it gives me numbers on my shooting arc, and it gave me a number, and I kept focusing on that number the whole time. And I know that the Noah shooting system gives analytics on shot arc, distance, all these various things, and according to their website, 26 of the 30 teams in the NBA use or have, have the Noah system, because I do know there are plenty of NBA teams that have these fancy things that don't use them because they have no idea what they're doing. But that's a whole different conversation for a different day. And 4 teams don't. So I'm assuming, since he was talking about Noah so excitedly, that either Memphis doesn't have it or doesn't use it. But anyway, David, can you talk to us a little bit about the Noah shooting system?
Yeah, I haven't talked to them in years, but the thing that I remember most when they called me years ago was it tracks your arc and then the consistency of your arc. And that, to me, that's a super valuable thing. I may have mentioned to you before. I've just watched so many shots now. I know what the arc I want. And in my gym, which I've been using for years, I can stand in a certain spot. A player could be at the top of the key. I can measure it against the ceiling lights, the fan, and so forth, and the lines that are there, and know where it's at too. But I still can see it myself. Just the arc itself. This is a challenge for players. Is to get most guys don't shoot with enough arc. It's a fact. Or
consistent arc. Is that it? Or is the arc consistent enough? Oh
no. Yeah. Well, that's a whole separate thing.
Okay.
And you're exactly right.
Okay.
They don't shoot with enough arc. Period. And then those that actually do sometimes get the right arc don't do it consistently.
Okay.
And this gives you feedback on that. So if you're paying attention and you realize, oh, that shot was a little bit flat, I did this, or this, or my legs weren't into it, I didn't get my arm high enough, and they work towards that, and you get feedback on it, which I always say, the more you shoot, the more feedback you're getting. These guys shooting 40% from 3 or 35% from 3 on 1.5 a game, I feel for them.
Right.
If they took 3-4 a game, they'd shoot better.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, they shoot better because you're getting at least some biofeedback from what's going on. I ask our players to be critical. Don't just be mindless shooters. Pay attention to what you're doing. Think about what's happening here. And a machine can help you with that, especially if you're getting shots up on your own and you don't have a coach saying, hey, you're too flat. That's what I commonly would do, is say a little too flat, or that's perfect arc. I almost never say too much arc. In fact, I always start with young players, making them shoot with too much arc. And I tell them, I don't worry about making it. Let me see really high arc. 90% of the time they put the right arc on it. They don't
Mm.
realize that how flat they are. Then I show them what a real moon ball looks like.
Yeah.
We don't want the moon ball.
Right.
And so it gives them an idea of what the extreme is, and that can settle back a little bit and get the right arc. But yeah, it's a real challenge. And so for Dillon, I bet Houston buys one if they don't have one already.
Right. And I looked it up. That shit is not expensive, guys. Like, these NBA teams can easily, I mean, again, the 4 teams that don't have it, I don't know why. Maybe they have something else working.
Well, they might have something different, yeah.
Is it, but why is it that players don't have enough arc when they shoot, David? Is it like just a body thing and or a perception thing? Why do players not shoot with enough arc?
In fact, in my library behind me, I have a lot of basketball books in this particular library. I have a book called The Physics of Basketball. I also have The Physics of Art. That's a much more complicated book. They don't shoot. They're not strong enough to shoot with arc when they're young. They build that habit. They also don't value it enough. And that's something that coaches really need to do is hammer the idea of arc. You want to increase the angle of entry into the cylinder, right? Increase the angle of entry, which means you have to increase the angle of departure off your finger pads. This is what I teach. And they just don't do it. They don't value it. Kawhi Leonard shoots the line drive, and who doesn't want to be Kawhi Leonard? Yeah. If he had more arc, Kobe too. I've always contended those guys be better shooters, more arc. It's literally science.
Yeah.
You have very little room for error when you shoot a flatter shot. As that ball hits the rim, it's more likely going out.
Correct.
And so the increased angle of entry, I always tell players this: you have a better if you hit the rim, you have a better chance at the inside of the rim. Hitting the outside of the rim is much worse. Hitting the inside, so all that stuff matters. And I listen. We've been saying this for years and years. I didn't invent arc. It is a problem we have with our players shoot too flat commonly.
Yeah. It's so interesting though as you say that, because I'm right now imagining all the great shooters in the world, and my God, they have such tremendous arc. Right? I'm thinking about Curry when he's shooting.
He's the best.
I'm like, that's got so much arc when he shoots the ball. Like,
he's the best. I read an article once that said someone did the measurements and said he consistently has the highest arc in the league, and I just thought,
duh, that's why he's the best shooter. Well, it's funny because we've all seen it, and we didn't plan on going here, but let's talk about it. We've seen the videos when he was a kid shooting on the rims and NBA rims because his dad played in the NBA. How much do you think that helped him, David? Because when you're so small, he had to throw it. So, because how's he going to get it up there? Right?
It's 2 things. It's that for sure. You have to get more arcs to get it over the contesting arm of the guy, but it's also daddy. Right? Trust me, if you saw my son shoot in high school, you would laugh. He shot with Steph Curry arc. Okay. It only looked silly because no one else had
that kind of arc. Yeah.
Right? Or middle school when you played middle school. And so I've told you this probably before. I don't know if I ever did it on the podcast. So I used to look at Curry's shooting in the Chase Center, or even before that too, whatever the name of that place.
Oracle, the old one.
Oracle, yeah. So you could see him shoot, and you could see the backdrop of the fans. There'd be a guy in a purple shirt, like in the 5th row or 7th row. I think it was 7th row, whatever. And his ball would be at its highest arc where that purple shirt guy was. Then you would look at anyone else, and I would do this for players that I was helping from the exact same spot Curry was, and he'd be 2 rows low.
Oh, done. Yeah.
Or 1 row low. And he's just flatter. Right. And the same size person. Because you have to factor all that in. I think that it just, when you're young, if your dad's a shooting coach,
that helps.
There's Chris Ballard. Chris Ballard is a great writer, right? And he wrote a book years ago, and there was like 12 chapters covering different things. Well, one of the chapters was he spent a week with me. Henry was there in Bradenton when I was doing work at IMG then. They were hosting my workouts. And I think he even wrote this, if not in the book, in the article that he wrote, because he wrote an article too at Sports Illustrated back then. When I first met him on the court, I watched him shoot. He played college basketball. I watched him shoot, and I said, your dad's a coach? He's like, how'd you know? I said, look at your shot. Yeah. You can tell. You can tell my son is a dad is a shooting coach. Yeah. It's just built perfectly. Steph Curry, same thing. Right.
It's amazing. Watching these guys do that, I'm amazed. All right, let's go back to Team USA. And this is the internet, and don't take the internet seriously. But as David said, people on his page were like, want to jump off a ledge. Team USA is so bad. People were killing Kerr, killing Jalen Brunson as a pick, killing Kerr for playing small. Why'd you bring Walker Kessler if he wasn't going to play any minutes? and killing our guy, Jarod Jackson Jr., for only averaging 2.8 rebounds. And I thought, yes, and if you watch Memphis as much as we do, you know he doesn't rebound a ton. I also thought part of it was defensive schemes, right? They were switching a lot. Well, if he's switching out to someone on the perimeter, how's he grabbing the rebound? If he's guarding a guard out there, right? And I just thought there's some challenges there, but he does need to be a better rebounder than he is for his size. But that was a problem for Team USA.
He is his own worst ally on that, because he has said, we even talked about this on our show, that he's all about blocking shots. No one's going to tell me not to go after every shot. That's what Memphis wants. Well, your impulse defensively as a rebounder is to make contact, stay in between your man and the rim, and then beat him to the ball. Pretty simply, right? You don't have to block out necessarily if you're not going to be overpowered or out quick to the ball, as long as you're in between. If you're 5 feet to the right or left and the ball goes the other side, you're in trouble. That's why you said you want to be able to draw a line between your man, you, and the rim, straight line. Okay, going right through your chest. But when you're up all the time trying to block that shot like a puppy, he's not always jumping like he used to. You're susceptible. Your momentum's going the wrong way, and you can't have both.
Correct.
You can't have both. You can block less shots
and grab more,
like to contest more and rebound better, or you keep playing the way you're playing. It's a choice he's going to have to make.
Yeah. And that's why I think for Memphis, it's so important that he plays next to Steven Adams, right? Because Steven Adams takes care of the rebounding piece of it. So I think that's something they're going to have to look at going forward. If they don't have an Adams type guy, or Team USA, if he's going to play the 4, who's the 5 that's going to grab boards for you, right? Like that's something that teams need to figure out when they're constructing and when they're thinking about stuff going forward. But look, Team USA didn't win. They lost. It happens. David's like, I don't care. And it's not, and it isn't a big deal, guys. It doesn't mean like it's the end of the world. And as far as like, well, if we just bring our best guys, it's like, as David said at the start, like we shouldn't tell guys to play. If they want to, great. I think, they tried to do this with Coach K, and they did. Guys had to be part of the program, they called it, for a few years. And it wasn't just a one commitment, you play one Olympics. It's one Olympic Games and another tournament in the non-Olympic years. Like that was your commitment to play. So whether it was a World Championship, now a World Cup, or an America's tournament, whatever it was. But they decided that they are not getting the buy-in that way, and it makes sense because the NBA season's long, and guys don't want to commit for 2-3 years out of their summers. They may want to do other things. But again, I think if we have different players and if we take it seriously, which as David said, we will have revenge on our mind coming in for Paris. That's the goal. But when you have no urgency, right? Like these other teams, they love beating us is the highlight of their basketball lives. They love it. It isn't the same for us, right? And you can see it. So again, come Paris 2024, the team will look different and they will have vengeance in their minds. Maybe that'll make them play better. We'll see.
Yeah, there's a lot of sky is falling stuff. And I just don't see it that way. I'm happy to be critical wherever I need to be critical of player development. Obviously, I know a little something about that.
You sure do.
And I'm no bleeding heart patriot. Our country's got as many flaws as pretty much any country in history. We have a great, we promote well, but I'm not sure we're worthy of the admiration that we give ourselves. I'm quite sure we're not. But whatever, we lost. Lithuania probably beat us best of all. We lost in overtime and lost to Germany by 2. The other teams played great. As I said to you off air, we could come back. This team could come back and have a 10% higher chance to win. And they weren't far off this year because they'll all be more experienced. How old is Jarod Jackson Jr.?
22.
Maybe I thought maybe 23.
23, yeah, he's young.
Ant Edwards, young.
Yeah, Darren's 23. Yes, these guys are babies.
Come on. Tyrese is 23.
Yep.
What are we talking about here?
Right, these are young kids.
Most of these guys would be a year out of college.
Yes.
Let's face it.
Yeah.
Most of these guys would be a year out of college. And some of them are like Walker Kessler,
Yeah.
Bridges a little bit older, obviously. He was our best player, I thought.
He was excellent.
I don't think the sky is falling.
No.
We have a plethora of talent and plenty of coaches that know what they're doing and plenty that don't, but we have plenty that do. And I'd be surprised if America doesn't field a better team, and that team is going to play with an edge. And I think Steve Kerr will learn a little bit too. And I said this, the last thing I'll say is, years ago, I told you guys off air earlier on our content call that I was on ESPN with Stephen A. Smith debating this subject of should we have a college coach running the team whenever Coach K would step down. This was a long time. This was maybe a decade ago or so. And I argued that we should have a college coach as the head coach with NBA assistants. That was my argument. I thought they'll be fresher. They coach a lot less games. They have these guys will start practice now in college, but they don't really start camp till October, and they don't play until November.
Yep.
And they just will be fresher, and they're just motivating as part of what they do in the college game. The NBA has too many games to give rah-rah speeches much.
Yeah.
Not to say Steve Kerr can't do it.
Right.
Not to say it's not competitive. I would like to see us have college coaches again. But Steve Kerr now knows what he went through. I'm sure they'll do it. The Grant Hill and those guys are involved behind the scenes. They're going to look back at everything. And I would think they'll give him criticism of, Steve, go ahead and coach these guys harder.
Yeah, coach them up.
Let's motivate them more. We took too many possessions off. We were too casual too often. So let's use what happened last year as all year long. Send a text to KD. Send a text to Curry. When you see Wagner have a great game, hey, that's who we're going to play again. You're playing against these guys. Start building that edge a little bit.
Yeah.
And that too. But the idea that we got embarrassed, that you could argue that.
Sure. Yeah.
Let's make up for it in Paris next year. Yeah.
I like that. You always say players get so many reference points and feedbacks in games, right? Because shots are off, whatever, defense possessions. Well, a GM, which is essentially what Grant is as the head of USA Basketball and Steve Kerr, they get reference points too, right? And so all of this is reference points for them now looking forward to say, okay, what do we need to do differently? I love the point about the college coach. And I think K was the right one because of who he is and what he accomplished. He was going to be able to walk in that room with a level of gravitas that guys would listen to him, right? Because of who he is. Who do we think now is at the college level that if he walks into a room, guys in the NBA would be like, oh no, this guy's legit. I'm listening to him.
I mean, Bill Self, what he's done in Kansas is nothing short of extraordinary. Nate Oates runs a very NBA style game in Alabama. I don't know that the players know him as well, but these are pretty young guys. They probably do to some degree. Calipari probably has.
That's right, Cal. Yeah,
he's coached a lot of guys, but I would probably start with Bill. It'd be. I don't think we're going to do it.
No,
I thought it was a mistake using Pop. I thought it was a mistake using Kerr. Stephen A. didn't. Stephen A. thought we were smart to use pro guys. He yelled at me, which is what he always does, right?
That's why Screaming A. Smith. That's
yeah. When he is that what they? That's
yeah, of course.
Yeah. I just thought that. Why are you yelling at me? I literally had the thought of. I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere. We have a college coach right now, and we're doing pretty good.
Right.
Like, why am I an idiot for thinking we should keep doing the same thing?
When you said, why are you yelling at me? It reminded me of it was a Vince Vaughn movie. Like, was it Wedding Crash? I was like, why are you yelling? It's just very much just like, whoa, dude, like, where am I?
This was before he was all that famous. I mean, he was doing Skip Bayless's show, but I wasn't on Skip Bayless. This was our own thing. Why are you yelling at me for arguing on behalf of something that's already working?
It's working well.
Whatever.
Yes.
The defense rests. I do think that we're better off with a college guy and someone that's recruited a lot of these players. So that's why I say a Bill Self type. Someone that's been doing this a long time, knows all these players really well, would be very good. Rick Pitino 20 years ago would have been great. Not anymore. Billy Donovan, if he ever goes back to college, would be great for sure.
Makes sense.
Which is what I recommended back then. Billy was still in college then.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah, the sky's not falling, America. We're in terms of basketball, we're pretty good.
It's falling as it relates to climate change and other things, but we'll deal with that.
Yeah, right. We're burning volcanoes. Yeah.
All right, guys. We'll be back after a quick commercial break. All right, David. NBA season will be here before you know it. I started checking in with some of the guys. They're already back in town. They're getting ready. End of the month, they're gonna really in earnest, start doing stuff. I mean, secretly, guys are like getting players together and they're having little like mini camps. It's already happening. One of it's already got out. Steph had a bunch of the guys already over doing a mini camp. Like stuff's already percolating and happening. Everybody's getting juiced up before the beginning of training camp, which is always funny. I always say the first day of training camp when you go to do the media session, Dave, it's like the first day of school. Everybody's so happy. Everybody's happy to see each other. It's so wonderful. And that shit lasts like a week. And then it's like, oh man.
Well, in most cases, they've been seeing each other. Yeah, in most cases, they've been seeing each other for weeks. Yeah. In most cases, they've already been. I'm privy to lots of players and coaches, whatever. There's lots of games going on right now on practice centers and practice facilities, and with 90% of the players on the team there playing.
ready
Now,
to roll.
there are some situations which I have to keep confidential.
Yep, of course.
Where a player who's being paid by another team
is
working out with the NBA team where he lives. That's always weird to me.
Yeah, well, listen.
I was watching my players send me clips sometimes that they get from players from their own teams, and of course I would never put them on social media or whatever. But I remember seeing a player who's a very good starting player for a different team in a different conference, and I think shooting is like a fingerprint for me because these cameras are way up in the sky. That you're, this is the bird's eye view. This is not network footage.
Right, TV view. Yeah,
it's like huddle, like you just have a fixed camera somewhere, and but I know everyone's shot typically. So I see this dude shooting it, and I thought, why is he in this
That's a
city?
weird gym. That's what.
So I texted the player and said, like, is this guy here every day? And he said, yeah, he's here every day because he lives there. Yeah, but that'll change. I bet he gets. I bet this guy probably leaves this week to get his own.
Well, a lot of it too is if guys have their families that like live in that city, it's like they they want to stay with their fam for as long as they can until all right. Because when I go, I ain't gonna see you that much. That's life in the NBA. All right. We're gonna start doing our previews for the season coming up. We'll do a bunch of stuff. David will do his over under win thing at some point, right? When you guess the wins for each team schedules.
Yeah, we got some time for that.
I'm not pushing on you to do it now, but that is coming down the pike. That is coming down the pike.
Every game, it's September the 11th.
Yes,
Jarod.
Yeah. I know. Don't worry. We'll I'm just letting the fans know it's coming down the pike.
I feel pressure.
That's coming. We'll guess MVPs and all that kind of thing, but we're gonna do a couple things on the pod, which is burning questions. One burning question each of us has for each team as they head into training camp. And we'll make it very easy. We'll start with one division in the conference, and we'll get through all 30 by the end of next week. So let's start. Atlantic Division, Eastern Conference. We'll go alphabetical order. First team up, the Boston Celtics. Excuse me. Look at that. We messed up my alphabet. Boston Celtics. David, I'll let you ask your burning question first.
Oh, I didn't realize that's what we were doing. I'm asking you the burning question?
Yeah, you're asking me the burning question. Or you're just asking generally, what is your burning question for the Celtics?
Yeah, my question more than anything is KP. What kind of, how does he fit? They clearly took a chance in moving Marcus Smart and getting KP. Grant Williams is gone. On a team that lost in the finals. I thought they were the best team in the league that year and then was upset last year and didn't have a great season with a new coach. And so that would be my big question is, You made a big, if this doesn't work out, there's some changes. If Brown or Tatum are gone, that kind of thing, both are gone. I don't think both are gone, but I think KP is the question mark. I think everyone has that question.
You see, guys, David and I have probably done, I don't know, at this point, 300 million shows
well
together.
Over 300. Yeah.
Right?
Well
so our brains are starting to think alike when it comes to basketball. My question was, how much are they going to miss Marcus Smart and Grant Williams? And I just... look, Grant kind of thought of the rotation last year in the playoffs and for whatever reason. And we've talked about he's a little bit of a different guy and that can kind of wear on a team and whatever. And I'm like, but look, Marcus Smart, that guy, all the intangibles and all the tangibles, right? I mean, this guy won Defensive Player of the Year 2 years ago. He was such an integral part of what that and gave them such an identity in terms of on the defensive end. Are Tatum and Brown going to be able to, be that not only the voice vocally in the locker room? Sure, that's one thing. But on the court, right? Do the thing that gets everyone to, oh no, look, Marcus is down on the ground. I'm diving on the ground, right? To matter and value each possession at the time when it comes to do that, which is winning time in the postseason. And maybe they thought it was time to move on from that, right? Because they were not good in the playoffs last year, David. Going down 0-3 to Miami, it's like, what are you guys even doing? They would just sleep. They should have lost to Philly. I mean, really. It was a miraculous that they won that series. So maybe the powers that be, Wick and everybody and Brad thought, if we change this stuff out, we'll be better. I don't know. The jury's out, obviously. We'll see what happens when the season starts.
Yeah, I'll just add in two things. One is Derek White's maybe the most underrated player in the league. Good. And so it's his team now as a quarterback, not the best player. And then the other question is Joe Mazzulla. You're not going to grow at some point you plateau as a coach, just like you do as a player. That is not the case with him. He's in his second year now and his first real off season where he gets to look back and see the mistakes he made, the things he did well, what he wants to change. This is the year we get a real feel for who Joe's going to be. It's his team.
Mm-hmm.
And that's I'm rooting for him. I root for everybody.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you imagine another flame out season? Good God. Heads are going to roll in Boston.
Yeah.
All right, we're far away from that. All right, next team up. Get my alphabet correct. The Brooklyn Nets. My question is, how good is Mikal Bridges going to be in Brooklyn this year? Coming off of that World Cup and what we saw second half of the season when he got, well, not even second half, the last third of the season, because trade deadline is way past the halfway mark. He showed some amazing stuff. Now, he got tons of reference points in the playoffs when he realized, oh, when you're the number one guy in the postseason, yeah, it's a little different. You got to work on something slightly differently. I'll be very curious to see what he's added to his game and his bag, knowing that he's going to be the featured option in Brooklyn.
Yeah, he was Team USA's best player, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the metrics show, but watching all the games except the last one, I thought he was their best player. I was going to talk about Bridges, so I'll pivot a little bit. And where is the franchise going? What are they going to do?
Mm-hmm.
What are they going to do? They have an interesting team, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I like Claxton at center.
Claxton's
they have a lot
good.
of good wings and guards, some good guards, but a lot of good wings. And so you could sell these pieces for lots of future assets and young players, or you could try to maybe trade a couple guys. Won't be so easy, and get back another player to play at Bridges. I don't think that's less likely. Or you can just kind of stay the course and see what happens, which is what I think will probably be the case. Is see how the season goes. Are you around 500 or so, and then make a decision. But I do think there's an argument that this team doesn't win a lot of games at the end of the year on purpose.
Yeah, that could be fair. Yeah.
They have some guys moved out, and they're going to build for the future.
Yeah, no, that's definitely fair. All right, New York Knicks, David, you're up. What's your burning question for the New York Knicks?
Who's RJ Barrett? Yeah. Who's RJ Barrett? Who is he? Is he a 38+% 3-point shooter? Because right now the answer is no.
Yeah.
Is he a consistent scorer? Right now the answer is no. Efficiently, I should say. Efficient scorer. What does he do defensively? Is he a top 3 guy on a team like he's being paid to be?
Yeah.
Or is he just a nice role player? Maybe at some point he's a 6-man scorer off the bench.
Yeah.
Not even the best scorer. We don't know. We don't know. But right now he's overpaid.
Yeah, I think
he's young. He's very young.
He is young. You hit the nail on the head. With RJ, and we talked about, because I like the kid. He's a very nice kid, and I want good things to happen for him. Maybe they overvalued him at that third pick. It's just because at this stage he is not performing like a number 3 draft pick. Now, again, he's young, can develop, but the shooting isn't there aside from that one season, which now looks like a blip. That because it hasn't been continued. He had some moments for Team Canada at during the FIBA World Cup. So again, maybe he's able to catapult that and bring some success with himself to the Knicks. He doesn't finish well at the rim still for a guy as big as he is. Yeah, I'm concerned about RJ Barrett. My question for the Knicks is: you've been run competently for the last few seasons since William Wesley and Leon Rose are there. What's the move? What is the move that you're planning here? Because you got nice pieces. We love Jalen Brunson. We love a lot quickly Grimes. Mitchell Robinson's excellent defensively center. We like a lot of the stuff you guys. Julius Randle made another All-NBA team. But what's the move? What, are you going to try to figure out a way to get somebody in? Your cap sheet is excellent. You got draft picks. Are you thinking about making a move? And what is the move to get you guys up to that status where you're contending? They made the playoffs last year and won a series, but what's the next thing?
Well, if they can get Mikal Bridges in place of RJ Barrett, they're cooking. Yeah. I don't know why Brooklyn would want RJ Barrett.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
But you're right.
That would be. Other he's just much younger. He's 3 years younger or so.
Wait, David.
Bridges with Jalen.
You bring Mikal Bridges because you have Villanova reunited all over again. All the guys back together. the band is back together.
And then you hire
Jay Wright.
Correct.
I love it. I'm laughing.
Steal Philly's thunder right from him.
I'm laughing.
Team Philly.
But guys, David's not laughing. So if that happens, remember you heard it here first.
I mean, it's a no-brainer.
I'm with you. All right. Philadelphia 76ers. I'm going to stay away from the James Harden stuff. My question is, what would a Tyrese Maxey-centric 76ers look like? Assuming that Harden goes and Daryl gets what he wants, which is young player like a Terrence Mann next to him, which would be good because he plays defense, all that. And let's assume Joel Embiid gets annoyed and wants out. What would a what would a Tyrese Maxey led Sixers team look like with wings who can shoot and defend and a rim running center? Might be exciting. Might be something to think about.
In a year, maybe, yeah, if things melt down. But for this year's team, they're very talented. They need good. A Harden replacement. And so what's that deal? I wrote, 2 weeks ago, trade him for Jrue Holiday.
I like that.
I'm not saying the Bucks will do it because although James might be willing to say, I'll play with Giannis for a year. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, to me, all pressure's on Daryl replacing James so that whether Embiid's in his last season in Philly or not, you want to go out with a bang. And you have enough talent there to do that. With the new coaching staff, I'm not happy with how Nick Nurse anything's in Toronto, but his players liked him fine. So, you can't just punch us yet. You got to find a way to replace James.
I'm with you 100%. And the question is so, we talked about it last week, the thing about that Belichick does in the NFL, which is he's like, I always get off a player a year early, right? Because if I wait too long, value sunk, right? In many ways, not in every way, you're not going to get back equal value for James Harden, right? That's just not feasible now. But what can Daryl get back for James Harden? Because he's very specific about what he wants and what team is willing to give him all of those things for James Harden at this stage. Is it going to be a contender who gets desperate later, as the year goes on? It's like, no, we get Harden, add him here, we're fine, we can stabilize, whatever. I mean, because that's the only thing I see. Because a young team, why is a young team going to bring in James Harden? He doesn't help. So it's got to be a team that's contending already, or a team that's like, playoff level, but not really contender, but maybe can get themselves up into, they think can convince themselves, if we add James, we can move up a little bit higher in the playoff race. But that's really it, right? So your teams are limited with who will actually want him. So this will be very interesting to see how it plays out in Philly. Toronto Raptors, last team in the division. I'll let you go first on that one, David.
I may have a couple burning questions. The first one is, what's the story with Scotty? Is he going to be the one? Is he going to be multi-dimensional as a positionless guy? And then what kind of progress does he make with it? This is year 3. I thought he flatlined last year. I did not see any joy in LA with him. That doesn't mean he won't have it. But I feel like he's a transformational talent that has went from overachieving a little bit to underachieving in year 2, not abnormal in the NBA. And so what are you going to do? New coach, Darko's the new coach from Memphis. What are they going to do collectively, individually to help him become their second best player behind an all NBA level player in Siakam?
I'm with you right there. My question is kind of similar in terms of what are we doing in Toronto? Like what's the plan? Siakam is on the last year of his deal, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he's in a final year.
And then we know OG wants out. New coach in Darko, who I loved in Memphis. We're gonna miss him in Memphis.
But let's talk about OG. Okay, so if when you say he wants out, I'm not arguing with you. We've heard that too. But the head coach has been kicked out instead.
Correct. So maybe he'll be cool with Darko.
You're in Siakam. You have an all NBA level player. Obviously, he's won earned it 2 of the last 4 years. Had the same season last year he did the year before, despite a terrible team. And yet that's always a good sign. When you can manage to stay afloat when the team is sinking,
yes, that's good.
It's a good sign. Super selfless guy. He could score 25, 30 a night easily in this league. But he plays the right way. So OG, like there's no way you don't like playing with Pascal Siakam.
Correct. Yep.
Scotty Barnes may have some issues in terms of does he think he's better than what he is after what he went through as a rookie? Maybe so, but he's not a selfish player.
Right.
Like if you're OG and I can play with Scotty Barnes and Pascal Siakam, I think Siakam's 20 to 29, but he looks like he's 25. This is not a guy that played his whole life in AAU.
Right.
Like he is going to be like the old school guy. I think where at 34 you're going to be thinking he looks like he's 28 years old.
Yeah.
He's just built differently. And I've having been on the court with him before. He moves like he's a kid. It's just so agile for a guy 6'10". So if you're OG, I think you can rally him up.
Okay. I like that.
I don't know if he's good enough to be a top 3 player just like Scotty. If both of those guys step up, and now you've got the best trio of wings in the league that can play, because Siakam can play point guard.
Correct.
He averaged over 5 assists a game last year. I'm pretty sure I'm right when I say that, almost 6 a game. Like, dude, you now you got Pirtle.
Yeah, stay. Yeah, now you stay.
Their
Yeah.
starting five was good last year.
Yes.
With Gary Trent Jr. too.
Mhm.
Who probably because on the bench this year, their bench sucked. Well, it shouldn't suck this year. That's on management. That's on coaching. They should be. They losing Fred is a big deal.
Yes, for sure.
Because that goes to my question of Scotty: is he your point guard? Otherwise, you have no point guard. Malachi Flynn maybe works out, but probably not as a starter.
No.
Siakam, Barnes can probably handle it just fine. They're super talented that way. But we have some questions. But still, there's a glimmer of hope there that I think they could be one of the surprise teams. I included them in my list of potential playoff teams.
Well, we said it, right? When they collected, like, you guys got a bunch of just Masai loves 6'8", 6'9", rangy, wing, two-way guys. They got a plethora of them. And if you're going to play in the Eastern Conference, you need to throw somebody at Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, right? And Giannis always on a regular basis. So I love what they have. I guess, and the Darko hire probably tells me that they're committed to something. What that thing is, I don't know. But we'll see. No, but I'm with you, David. Like if OG can kind of get rallied, then maybe Nick Nurse was the problem. Maybe Darko reaches him in a different way, and he's ready to roll.
And it's a big if because Toronto, as a franchise, has really slid since the 2019 championship. As a franchise, I mean, Nick, when you lose your head coach after winning a championship, and it looked like he was the guy, that's not just on Nick Nurse; it's on the franchise too. You went to the season last year without a point guard besides Fred, who's not really a point guard. He's just a little guy that dribbles the ball a lot. And that's fine. You can win with guys like that for sure, obviously. But there are some glaring holes there that need to be addressed. And so there's questions now in the circles, the NBA circles, about management, about Masai, about ownership, what's really going on. That's a lot of pressure on the players. A new coach that could work out really well. The players have to recognize where they failed as a collective unit, and I think they can be a surprise team.
I'm with you. Who owns the Raptors? What's the Raptors ownership situation?
They have I don't know if the teachers union sold. They used to be owned by the teachers union, which is like the richest owner in sports.
Yeah,
but I think they sold. So they've got a couple guys that kind of run the team
they're
now.
Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment. That's right. So it's like Rogers Communications owns like 37%. It's like this weird, like, okay, I get it.
But there's a couple guys, and we just have real questions as to what's going to happen from that side. Where how have you not extended Siakam? You got to extend him, and then you have the asset.
Right.
They haven't done that. Maybe they will. They have, I think, all season to do it. If they don't do it, and he's an All NBA player, you got to pay him a whole bunch of money.
Right. Yeah.
And so this is where management's kind of, we're not really sure what they're doing. Masai, when I was in LA, was never there. I did get a bunch of photos from him from Africa. He does the Giants down there, the Giants program, and all of that. He's doing a lot of things. But right now, the Raptors need some help. And everyone needs to be rowing in the same direction to fix it. Yeah, no, I'm with you there. Yes, it'll be interesting to see. We will continue on with this series later in the week. We'll move to the Central Division in the East. Before we wrap, quick U.S. Open congratulations to our singles champions. Novak Djokovic won the men's championship for his 24th Grand Slam title. He beat Daniil Medvedev in straight sets. And on Saturday, Coco Gauff won her first U.S. Open title. Came back from losing the first set to win the last two. It was an amazing performance. David's buddy, he always talks about he watches the trophy presentation and celebrations for sports, and like he always cries like a baby, and I'm always like, oh, here we go. But David, I had a moment. No tears came, but it was getting close, particularly when she won. She kind of fell to the ground. She's like, oh my God. And she's like happy and smiling. And then as the smile, then all the waterworks came out at that moment. And it's just, you really, and as a coach, I know you know this, and I do as well, when an athlete has trained and worked so hard to achieve a thing, and they achieve the thing, right? It's just this release of all his emotions. Yes, happiness for sure, but the days leading up to it, as David loves to say, ain't all puppy dogs and ice cream, right? There's so much failure baked into sport. It's just everywhere. And you fail so many times before you succeed. And to see her succeed in that moment, as soon as she got into the stands, her dad was the first person she found. Huge hug, and her mom came, the three of them. Just, again, the journey they've been on. And it seems like, oh my God, so long. She's 19. It's not like she's old, but she burst onto the scene when she was 15. And, people placed, as people often do, unfair expectations. But her trajectory was her trajectory and her timeline. And as someone in player development, development's not linear. It moves at the pace it moves at. And I was very happy for her. And, she already is a superstar, and she's going to be a contender in many more majors to come. Yeah, the only thing I'll add is because I didn't see that yesterday, but that show quarterback really showed Patrick Mahomes' workout routines in addition to football. So separate from football,
Right? Yeah, just the workout
stuff
stuff.
he had to do for his body. It's no different for tennis players. They're doing different things,
Right.
but it's not just 2 hours of hitting and then go hang.
Right.
Yeah, there's a regiment. There's a routine, and it's freaking hard. And what these athletes can do in the heat,
Amazing.
Does Djokovic not sweat? Because some of these guys, it's just dripping. It's like a Bruce Springsteen kind of just dripping off their clothes. I don't see it coming from them. It's weird that way. I having coached as long as I have, everyone sweats differently. Some people sweat a ton.
Just sweaters, yeah.
I grew up with a guy who he sweated through his shoes. Literally would pop out the eye holes of his shoes, and his whole body too. But to be the best at something, a big event. There's no major like the U.S. Open. I know they say Wimbledon, but Wimbledon ain't New York. I'm sorry. maybe once, but U.S. Open,
it's a
play
huge
at
deal.
night.
Yep, the biggest crowd in all of sport, and
really?
Yeah, in all of tennis, that is the Arthur Ashe is the biggest stadium. It's like 20-something thousand were in there. And the thing about it is, when you are playing an American at the U.S. Open, like a final, like Sabalenka was, you're not just playing her; you're playing the crowd too. That is, again, as I say in individual sports, you got no teammates to help you, no coach to call a timeout. It's just you. And that's a lot.
I would add that I'm done with the silent stuff. Done.
Oh, like being quiet before they serve and stuff like that, you mean?
Done.
Okay.
Yeah. This ain't golf. Golf is way different. Golf is not a movement sport. I'm sorry. You can the yelling isn't changing the flight of the ball as you toss it up, right? It's not having impact. Deal with it.
I love it.
This quiet please drives me crazy. I don't understand. I don't understand. They don't do it for Davis Cup.
No, we talked about it a little bit on our content call this morning that, tennis has its roots in these, country clubs, elite establishments, and all these ridiculous rules and
done with that.
And the U.S. Open, if you've ever been, anyone knows or seen it on TV, that crowd, as Francis T. Alpha called them, they're honey-deuced out by the time they get in, right, which is the signature drink. So they're already liquored up and fired up, ready to roll.
I would never be able to go to one because I have to talk. And I have a loud voice.
Oh, you can talk. People are talking before
So while someone's tossing up, people are talking?
You can hear people talking, right? Yeah, people are talking all the time. Yeah, they don't want you yelling and chanting while they right. But
I wouldn't be doing that. But I think you should be able to. It'd be way better. Way better. Wouldn't it be great?
It'd be something. That's for sure.
They do in basketball. We can do it. Think about all the shit you hear in basketball.
Oh man, people are so ruthless with this stuff, man. I'm like, guys, you just, the idea, well, whatever. Paying money to go heckle somebody at work. I'm like, what, really?
I agree with that.
That's just silly to me.
Just cheer,
right? Cheer or boo, whatever. I don't care. But heckling people and getting personal, like, whatever.
I never did that.
Well, that's certain people, right? Anyway, that is our show. We will see you guys on Thursday. Take care.